Hello and welcome to the show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Happy New Year's Eve. If you are getting the show on the day that it's released, it is December 31st, 2019. Tomorrow, we start a new decade, January 1st, 2020. And just like the year and the numbers in the year, 2020 is about clarity and focus. It also gives us an opportunity to have spiritual growth. And that's one of the focal points of 2020. And today's show, the Fasting Mimicking Diet, is a way for me to provide information for you to support any of the behavioral changes that you want to make in the beginning of the year, which most people do, some kind of diet and weight loss and exercise plan, right? And this has a lot of science behind it. So it's not just about weight loss, actually. It's about anti-aging. It's about stem cell regeneration. It's about detoxifying your cells and cleaning up cells. So there's amazing results and scientific proof of why you want to consider doing this program several times. It isn't a quick fix to weight loss, of course, but it can contribute to your success in that area. But I just want to throw in here, on the 2020 spiritual growth opportunity here, if in fact you are that person who every year or every other year you decide, this is the year I'm going to do it, I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to change my diet, I'm going to get healthier, and you do it, the traditional way people do it is they start in January and they fall off by March. And it happens every year. And many people, I'd say the majority of people, it doesn't last. And the reason is, the whole reason why I'm doing this show, the whole reason why I've created events, is because you don't actually get to the root cause of why you choose what you do in the first place. So I know you've heard me talk about it for years, a lot of you, but I just wanted to make sure that you're very aware, crystal clear, that releasing what weighs you down, that's happening in 10 days, 11 days from today, is the last time it's going to happen. It won't be happening again. If you're someone who has thought about attending, now is the time. I know it's only 11 days away, but there still is time. There are still tickets, and it will be an amazing, life-transforming event, not only because of the intimacy of having me and Lisa with you and a small group of people to support you. The property that we're going to be on allows us to be outside. It allows us to earth. It allows us to commune differently and really disconnect from life and connect from what would be a traditional hotel and a traditional city. We're going to be in 75 acres of redwoods. So again, I just want to make sure that you understand that it is the last one. And to understand that it is part of how you actually change your habits and patterns for good. It's not just deciding I'm going to eat differently, because what you choose to eat is based on a series of beliefs and emotional patterns and habits that you have that you may not even be conscious of. So if you're repeating your patterns over and over again every year and you're tired of it, again, I think you're worth investing. Can you really afford not to change? I mean, if you want to stay the same, hey, that's up to you. But for those of you that know you need some support, you need some help, and you really don't want to keep repeating your patterns, I beg you, I encourage you, I invite you, I challenge you to come to Releasing What Weighs You Down. Again, it will be the last one, and we'd love to have you and support you. Go to releasingwhatweighsyoudown.com. Now, today's show, I'm not going to read Jeannie's bio. She's been on the show literally a million times. Okay, that's exaggerating a little bit. She's been on the show at least 30 times. So I'm not going to read you her bio. You can go check her out at nourishingwellness.com. She is a director of nutrition for the Nourishing Wellness Medical Center. She's got a ton of advice. She is brilliant. She is always up to date. She's always going to conferences and learning the latest, greatest tools and studies and research that they're doing for health and longevity. So she is a master. And I want to encourage you to also join our inner circle, because what we're going to talk about today, this fasting mimicking diet, it's a 5-day program. And I thought, what a great idea to host an accountability group for anyone wanting to do the fasting mimicking diet together. And we're going to do it in the Inner Circle membership. Now, if you decide to come to Releasing What Weighs You Down, you're going to get 3 months free in the Inner Circle membership. So let me know and I'll send you the link to sign up for 3 months free. Otherwise, it is $9.99 a month and you get a 7-day free trial. So we're going to be doing that towards the end of January. So if you're interested in having accountability for doing the fasting mimicking diet, having people that you're doing it with, who you can talk to, who you know are supporting you, who are experiencing the same things you are, and how they deal with it and what to do about it, and those that are doing it on their own versus those that are doing it with the packet. So it's jjflazanes.com/inner circle. If you want to join the inner circle, we have coaching, monthly coaching calls. We have extra podcast episodes that don't get put anywhere else. You get Q&As. We get live Q&As. So anyway, it's jjflazanes.com/inner circle. Check your show notes for all the links that I'm mentioning here today. So without further ado, I really am excited to share with you the fasting mimicking diet. Welcome back to the show, Jeanne.
Oh, nice to be here, JJ.
So today we're going to talk about the fasting mimicking diet. And, Jeanne and I have done a couple shows recently this year. The first one was about intermittent fasting. The second one was about antidepressants, gut and brain health. And we started to tackle a little bit in the intermittent fasting, things like ketosis. And you and I have not had the show on keto diet or anything about that. I did that with Jimmy Moore, and maybe that's something we could talk about if there's time today. If not, that's okay. But I recently have done the second round of the fasting mimicking diet, and you mentioned, it was part of fasting, but I want to get a little deeper into why we're doing this, why we're doing it the way that it's set up, the company that researched this, all the science behind it, because there's obviously many reasons to do it, and there's many benefits from it. You and I have already discussed this, but I want to flush it out for people who have never heard of it. What is it? Why do it? Because we have a client that we share who did it one time and had amazing results in several areas and said to me this last time, was it successful for you? And I thought, well, I think we're probably doing it for different reasons. And so your results and my results in the
Right.
short term are very different. So let's start with, what is the fasting mimicking diet?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was a program that was developed by Walter Longo, and he's the director of the Longevity Institute and at USC. And he was interested in looking at, so he scientifically developed this program so that people could get all the benefits of fasting while eating food. So he was interested in the research that was coming out on using just water-only fast, intermittent fasting, et cetera. But he was interested in looking at a program that people would have, that they would be more, they wouldn't have some of the adverse effects that we now know are associated with just straight water fasting. And they would also be more likely to follow the program. So the compliance with this fasting mimicking diet is way higher than, let's say, if you were told you couldn't eat anything for 3 to 5 days. And it's interesting what he put together. It's a plant-based program. It's basically about 5% protein. It's about a good portion of it is carbohydrates and a small amount of very healthy, high-quality fats, JJ. And what he found when people followed this program was that there are protective and regenerative capabilities that happen within the body within just this 5-day program that really induce longevity. And he studied this initially on yeast, then he did it on rats, then he did it in 2-phase big clinical trials with humans. And in all cases, he was able to see remarkable metabolic improvements. And he can actually get away with saying that it not only fights disease, but it slows aging because of some of the markers that they've measured in these clinical trials. They can now say that there are longevity benefits. And that's why he calls it, he actually wrote a book called The Longevity Diet, and it's based on this 5-day mimicking, this 5-day fasting program.
All right, let's talk about the difference between intermittent fasting and the fasting mimicking diet.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about intermittent fasting, which is just a diet approach that alternates between eating and fasting. So many people may follow a program where they take 12 hours off from eating, and then they eat within a 12-hour period. But it could be all the way up to people eat within a 2-hour period, and they don't eat for 24 hours. I mean, intermittent fasting probably needs to be more defined these days because so many people are doing so many different variations of it. But what we know is that when people are doing any type of fasting, whether it's for 12 hours up to 24 hours, there are benefits. I mean, there are changes that take place. One, of course, is which the body gets much better at burning fat. It starts utilizing your own fat stores for energy to make up for what the body needs during those periods of time when it's not eating. There are changes that happen at the cellular level. But one of the things that Dr. Longo discovered when he was measuring both yeast and rats doing intermittent fasting is that they found that when you started to go past 14 to 16 hours, there was a small percentage of the population in rats that actually developed gallstones. And his thought was that he wanted to do a program that only had benefits and no drawbacks. So then when he studied further and he looked at like time restricted eating, which is just restricting, the number of hours that you eat each day, shortening that number of hours. It's basically intermittent fasting. He found that, the healthiest window in his research was 12 and 12, meaning you give your body a 12-hour rest, you eat within a 12-hour period. He found that there was no incidence of gallstones, and there were still many benefits. So then from there, he took it into, looking at prolonged fasting, and there he found that there were definitely drawbacks, one of which was fascinating. I didn't realize this, but people who might go on these 2 to 3, even 5-day water fast, the body actually creates leaky gut during this period. And that was disturbing to him because he realized that if the gut is leaky, you're allowing many foodstuffs to enter from the gut into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there, and it really activates your immune system. So your immunity starts to overreact, and you can actually create like an autoimmune situation. So here again, he went back, did the research, and found that he could provide all these benefits of fasting while still eating food and give people the compliance that would allow them to get all these benefits that we can talk about later.
Okay, so basically, it's like you said, it's a 5-day fast,
Yep.
but it's the minimal amount of food that the body can have and still get all the benefits of if you were doing nothing but water with none of the drawbacks.
Yeah, you're probably, depending on whether you're a man or a woman, you're probably cutting back on maybe 30 to 50% of your normal calorie intake. So like the first day is 1,000 calories, maybe 1,100. And then for the next 4 days, you're eating about somewhere between 700 to 750, 770 calories. So you're getting a nice blend of, like I said, fats, complex carbohydrates, very, very small amount of protein. It's a vegan plant-based program. And there's reasons for that really tie into some of the amazing benefits that a body is able to support not only during the 5 days, but the 25 days after you're on this fast.
All right, well, let's talk about the benefits, because, of course, if someone's thinking, well, I already intermittent fast, why would I need to do this? What's the difference? What are the benefits?
That's really, I think, the key thing. I mean, I was fascinated with this research because he was real interested in the new science behind stem cells. I mean, he saw they did a number of years working with yeast because they replicate very quickly, but also in rats. And what he found was that when he put rats initially on this program, and now we see this with humans, by day 2, your body is actually increasing your fat burning. I mean, you're starting to switch into a fat burning state instead of using carbs for energy. So that's key. And the reason that's key is because what he found, JJ, was that the kind of fat that you're burning is this deep, stubborn, visceral fat. It's not the subcutaneous fat that, is right underneath the skin. It's that deep fat that surrounds the organs. It's the toughest fat for any patient to lose, for any client to lose. And so what we're finding is that's a key right there, just to be able to have a program that gets into that area. The second thing is that you actually start by the end of day 2 doing what they call cellular cleanup. It's a fancy word for it is autophagy. And it's almost like a biological vacuum cleaner. It just goes up, it sucks up all the old worn out cells, and it makes room for new regenerative cells that will start, particularly after you complete the fast. So when you start refeeding and you start taking in protein, you dramatically increase your human growth hormone and your ability to go ahead and generate these brand new fresh cells. So this cellular recycling is a real big benefit. And there's metabolic benefits for that. I mean, there's, people just find that their blood pressure starts to go down because they're really into like the third day. They're really starting to make some cellular changes. So blood pressure will start to drop. People will see their heart rate start to drop, their heart rate variability. Their stem cells escalate like crazy. So there's about a 300 to maybe 500% increase in your autologous stem cells, which are these circulating stem cells that are just going around the body looking for, what cells need to die and how can we utilize and recycle the components of those cells and utilize that for energy. So cell regeneration is dramatically happening. And where that shows up for people is that many people will notice their skin changes. They'll feel like their skin is got more of a pinker color. People with dark circles in their eyes, sometimes it lightens up. We've had many patients who've had, terrible skin conditions. Even after the fourth or fifth day, it calms down. We had a woman with terrible facial hives in our practice. And by the third day, her hives she was sending me pictures. It was amazing, from going from bright red to pink to finally just like raised bumps by the sixth and seventh day. So there's we never know exactly, how some of these metabolic changes will take place with people, but those are just some of the pathways that are being stimulated by the program.
We have several patients in common and clients that have done this, and I've seen over the course of the last year, one in particular, whose white blood cell count has gone up, right?
Yes.
We used to get sick all the time. And, a lot of people would think that the first reason they would want to do this is to lose weight. And what I've noticed, and it's the same like weight loss conversation anyway, whether you're looking at a program that is a restrictive diet of some kind or elimination diet of some kind or a detox, and your main goal is really just weight loss, doesn't mean you're changing your behavior past that diet when you get back into whatever normal food regimen you're on. And what's different about this program is that it has all these benefits that Jeannie's talking about, because I've even seen the behavior of people who enjoy the weight loss benefit. And by the way, it's not necessarily weight loss for everybody. I think both times I've done it, maybe a pound. I haven't had a huge, weight loss for me. That's why when I had this conversation with one of our clients, our shared clients, he said, because he had lost 10 pounds the first time he did it and just felt better in general and literally didn't feel brain fog anymore. He felt clear-minded. He was more motivated. And I think he's done it. He's on his third round right now in maybe 2 months. Mm-hmm. And so when I finished mine, he asked me the other day, was it successful for you? And I thought to myself, well, what does that mean to you? What does successful mean? So what was the reason why you did it? What was the reason why you put patients on it? Like, what are some of the symptoms that you prescribed this for?
Great. I think that's a great question. And, well, I'll tell you, for Doc and I, we went to USC funded a fantastic international fasting conference a year and a half ago. And we went, and it was just wonderful to hear from people from all over the world who are utilizing different forms of fasting with their patients. But I would have to say that Dr. Longo's research probably was the most impressive, because he was able to show how he studied over 22,000 patients to date. And one of the biggest improvements, JJ, was this improvement in metabolic balance. So one of the things that distinguishes our practice from other practices is that we really go into deep, we do a lot of blood work, far more than probably the average profile that patients get for their annual physical. So we're looking at things like glucose and insulin, and of course all your lipids, and IGF-1, which is kind of a marker of healthy aging, C-reactive protein. We obviously do body fat composition studies, so we're looking at abdominal fat and waist circumference. All of these markers improved with our patients that went ahead and took it on. So metabolic health, we saw patients who dropped, systolic and diastolic blood pressure, by 6 to 8 points on both sides, within the first week. And many of those patients who then went on to do the program, because what's the prescription is to do the program 5 days for 3 months in a row. So 5 days you do the program, you're following this meal plan, and then for 25 days you can go back to eating what you normally eat. And what we found with the patients that did the 3 months in a row, self-repair and rejuvenation works. I mean, these people not only lost belly fat, but they also really dramatically dropped their hemoglobin A1C. We had a lot of people that were at 5.7, which is basically prediabetes. Get back down to 5.4 or 5.3, which is suggesting that they really have kept their blood sugar levels much lower. C-reactive protein really dropped. Many people had normal triglycerides for the first time in their life. Insulin levels dropped. Cholesterol level, they were able to maintain their cholesterol without having to take a statin drug or to use any kind of niacin or some other kind of natural agent. So I think those are pretty profound improvements. It's far more than just a weight loss diet. Let's put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. And I knew that going in. And I'm that person, like, thinking about this particular client. A lot of people do things out of a reaction and a need to make a change. And I was literally wanting to be proactive. Right? You tell me that I can create my own stem cells and that I'm going to slow down aging. I'm going to do it if it's a healthy thing for me to do. Not to mention, there's great benefit to doing some kind of, again, this is not a quote unquote detox. However, it is doing a cleanup, but it's not a detox, so to speak, but it has some benefits of a detox. And I believe, and we've talked about detoxification for many years, that there's a regular need in our environment today and in our food system and in our water system and in our air to do a regular detox of some kind for your body, to give your body a rest, to let it regenerate, to do cellular cleanup and all of that stuff. So it was time. It was time for me. And I thought, I only did it at the time because Doug was out of town. So I thought, this is perfect. I'll do the 5-day fasting mimicking diet while he's gone. And so there was no particular reason I did it at this time, except he was not going to be here. Now, I'm planning on doing another one in January that will hold some accountability for others who want to join me as well. And I will plan that ahead of time. But I wanted, and as you suggested, that we talk about the benefits. And so what people can expect, why would they want to do it? Why should they do it often? And how it's actually utilizing your own body to heal yourself versus taking a drug, versus doing something extreme. Now, of course, the people that are doing the 3 in a row and yet go back to their normal diet, of course, there are things that you can clean up about your normal diet. But I love that you don't, even if you don't, here are some of the major benefits by just doing this 3 times in a row, once a month for 3 months, right?
Yeah, and I have to just say, a success story, just to tag on to that thought. We had a fellow that his whole life, he's just obsessed with food. I mean, he knows he's a food addict. And we struggled, with being able to get him to make a lot of changes in his diet. But he was willing to take on the FMD, fasting mimicking diet. And he would be the type of guy that could sit down and eat like a whole pizza without even thinking and never feeling really full. After he did the fasting mimicking diet the first time, he noticed that if he had a full pizza, he could only eat like 3 or 4 slices. By the time he was finished with the 3rd round, it was not unusual for him to eat 2 pieces and feel comfortable, feel satisfied. It wasn't like he went to, a self-help program. He didn't do like a 12-step. He didn't do anything. There's something that was going on with pathways within the body, these cellular changes that I feel contributed to him having a better mindset around food. He doesn't have the same kind of reaction to food that he's had, years of being an addict. So I think that's a powerful piece. And it's not the first time I've heard Alan and I, myself, we've done the fasting mimicking diet 5 times. And we just eat a lot less. We just eat a lot less throughout the day. We feel more comfortable with eating less. It's not like we were eating a ton of food before, but it's just we feel satisfied. And I think many patients will speak to this who have done the program.
I would agree. I have a client of mine who I had reached out to you and started, and during the first day, she was complaining about it, want to eat off her arm because she was so hungry. But then between day 1 and day 2, I think she lost 4 pounds. And all of a sudden it became, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be so happy eating anything.
Yes,
so,
yes.
I mean,
that is very common. You're right about
right.
that.
So whereas before, if you're taking someone from a regular, whatever their regular eating regimen is, and just trying to clean it up a little bit, even like 5 to 10% clean up, there's resistance to changing that. But then when you go from this extreme to adding something in now, it's in the opposite direction. It's pleasurable because now you're going to really savor. And I did this time a little bit more than the last time. When I did it with the actual Prolon kit, which I would recommend anyone who's listening, if you want to do it, you're going to reach out to Jeanne to get that kit. And I'm going to host accountability group within the Inner Circle membership in January. So if you're part of the Inner Circle, we'll get coaching and daily check-ins that we're going to do during the 5 days. I haven't decided the actual date we're doing it yet, but it'll be and there'll be also a way for you to do it on your own that Jeanne has written, and we'll continue to fine tune before then.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But I'm a big proponent on, just do it, get the box and do that first, because then you really see how it goes. When I did it, there were soups that were dehydrated and I added the water, but I thought they were like instant soups. So I didn't actually cook them. I just added the hot water and waited a little bit. And then if it was kind of crunchy or kind of chewy, I just kind of went with it. And I was like, so it never was really satisfying. And of course I read afterwards that you could cook the soups. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll know that for next time. And then I did it on my own with your recommendations and the plan that was laid out. And because it was already prepared soup in a box that I got to heat up, of course, the experience was much better. And I literally savored every bite. I ate very slowly and I drank a lot of tea. But I will get into what I want to go over before we go through what the actual program looks like, feels like. I want to talk about some of the things that can happen while you're on the program. And because it happened to me, it's happened to a client that we share, and I can't imagine it hasn't happened to other people. So the benefits that we outline, there's weight loss, there's anything from your, eating less and being less hungry, cleaning up your gut, skin clearing up, stem cell regeneration, helping the body, blood pressure, resting heart rate, okay, and more. Let's talk about what can happen and why. So for me, let's go over what happened to me.
Sure.
I was having an allergic reaction, not an allergic reaction as if like I was having an attack. I just noticed that I was blowing my nose more. There were 1 or 2 times in the day where I did sneeze a few times, but I literally was congested. And for me, when I get congested like that, it's usually because I've had either wine or I've had dairy. And of course, this is a plant-based diet where I'm having none of that. And I literally the entire time was blowing my nose, not incessantly. I wasn't sick, but I was kind of teetering on that. And you had said to me between day 1 and day 2, I remember thinking, because I actually was starting to feel like I was getting a little bit of the flu. And I remember you asking me, well, you're probably in ketosis, or saying to me, you're probably getting in ketosis now. And I remember when I did the keto diet full on, like no cheating, I did the full on keto diet for 10 days last year. I felt that same little coming on. So I thought, okay, well, maybe this is just letting me know I'm now in ketosis, because I wasn't really tracking anything. I mean, I didn't even get on the scale until after the second day. So I wasn't tracking anything except my experience in my body and how I was feeling. And so I was definitely aware that I felt a little on the edge of flu-like, and I was taking my homeopathic stuff and I was doing extra vitamin C. So let's talk about why that happened to me, and if it's normal or if it's regular and what to do about it.
Yeah, I think everybody is different, JJ. I honestly think going into ketosis, I mean, what's happening is, you're like a Prius. So your body knows how to use carbohydrates for fuel, and it knows how to use fat for fuel, but it doesn't really practice using fat for fuel very often, particularly if you're the type of person that was eating every couple of hours, and every time you eat something, you're eating some carbohydrates. You're not really practicing how to use and how to utilize and get into releasing the fat from your fat stores for energy. So, people can have hiccups with that. One of which is your body will start utilizing some stored carbohydrate that it lives in your muscle and your liver. So that's called glycogen. So when glycogen starts to be utilized, it'll be used up probably in 24 hours, depending on how active you are. So you might have been, particularly if you're unusually active on the very first day, you're going to use that up faster. Glycogen is stored as 1 part sugar to 2.5 parts water. So just, some people are going to release a lot of water. They're going to be peeing all day. That in itself can feel very depleting for people. It can make them feel like they have a little bit of the flu coming on. I mean, you were releasing a lot of inflammation. I mean, you said you were blowing your nose. My sense is that, your body was already starting to get into the healing benefits. So it's a little bit like the healing crisis that many people will have when they do something that's more dramatic. A lot of people will feel, they might have more cramps because they are releasing so much of their, when they're releasing this water, it's not just water, it might also be with electrolytes. So that's why in day 2, we encourage people to make sure they use a little bit of, in your program, they use a little bit of sea salt or there's a little bottle of fluid. It's called, it's like a glycerin-based fluid that is called the L drink, and it really helps to provide a little bit of tiny bit of glycerin, which is a little bit like a carbohydrate, so it'll give people a little bit more energy to help them transition. But everybody is different, so ketosis for some people might not actually happen until day 4, and for you, because you're, slim and probably, very active, happened earlier. I know it happened for me Tuesday night, and it was so clear that, okay, I'm going to be better tomorrow, because once you start utilizing your fat stores for energy, your body is getting a little bit more comfortable with finding another fuel source, and it doesn't have to rely just on food or just on carbohydrate.
Well, but you track you being in ketosis way more than I ever have, and I know you often are in ketosis. So why would you be having that experience versus me? I'm sure I'm probably not in ketosis. I'm not doing keto, and I'm not really doing super low carb.
Right.
So I know I had a level to jump, so to speak, right? From burning sugar to burning fat.
You get better at this over time. So, I do fasted workouts, so I can burn 400 calories in a workout, and I'm not eating anything before the workout. So, oftentimes when I'll test, it's either before or after my workout. So I'm going to be utilizing fat stores for energy during that workout. And so that's one thing. The other thing is you get better at it over time. So, people who start off doing it the first time they may be a bit clumsy. The body's having a struggle. And other people, by the time they do it the third time, they're getting better at being able to tap into those fat stores. So like the first time somebody does intermittent fasting who's never fasted in their life, they're probably going to feel pretty crummy in the morning if they are used to always breaking the fast when they get up, and now they're going to wait for 2 or 3 hours before they would eat something. That transition from having to get some energy into the bloodstream coming from your fat stores takes a while to master. So it's not like everybody's going to be excellent at it the very first time they start this, or that they're going to go into it soon. So yeah, that is one of the benefits, though. Over time, you just keep getting better at it. Get better at burning fat for energy.
That's one of the reasons why I insist on having bulletproof coffee in the morning when I'm intermittent fasting, because that takes me through to noon or 1 o'clock. We eat pretty late here. Sometimes I'm not done eating until about 8 o'clock at night. So my first meal most of the time isn't till noon or 1. And if I've never not had some kind of bulletproof coffee. And what I do love about this last program is that we decided how I would be able to do that. And I got it down to, on a very minimal level, I got it down to a half of a teaspoon of coconut oil only. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Now ask me what I do on a regular basis, and it's way more than that plus
Of
butter.
course.
So, right.
Yeah.
But that's providing me fuel. So I'm used to
Yeah.
intermittent fasting for 16 hours and eating for 8. So let's talk about, so that's one sort of negative reaction that can happen. Of course, as you're on it, I added some vitamin C, I added some B12, I did the homeopathic stuff.
Good
I
for
did
you.
I did all the things that I could do to help, but honestly, I kept blowing my nose the entire time. So when you had
Wow.
asked me about allergies, and so you said, so let's talk about the role of the immune system, because actually this is happening to one of our shared clients, that he's also not eating dairy or gluten or anything, and he's blowing his nose and feeling congested. So what happens to the immune system while you're on this program?
Yeah, I mean, there's all these pathways that are being activated because you are in this fasted state. So remember that gosh, I don't know, 90% of your body's immune system lives in your gut. So your gut, and you're getting a lot of rest, because you're only eating 3 meals and really tiny little snacks, as you know. So it's not, so you're getting a rest. So your body's actually able to activate. The immune system is kind of waking up and saying, hey, we got jobs to do. Let's get out there and do it. So it may be that you're getting a little bit of a Herxheimer's reaction, where sometimes if you're doing something that has a high benefit, there's a price. And so part of it is the body's just trying to purge, a lot of phlegm from the system, maybe from just poor food choices, not necessarily in your case, but, maybe other clients who maybe have had poor food choices. There's a certain amount of phlegm that just exists from a reaction to these foods. So the body's getting rid of them, purging it.
So in a way, it's a symptom that we could consider a detoxification.
A healing effect.
Yeah,
it's a healing effect,
like a detox. When people
or Herxheimer. Yep, you see Herxheimer.
I haven't heard of that term, the Herxheimer, but I'm saying in terms of if one of the reasons why back in 2008 I even went gluten free. I'm sure you remember that right before my wedding, I was going to do a detox that was a heavy metal detox, but I couldn't find it. Like it didn't come, or it got stolen. I don't know. And all of a sudden we're like a month out, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that detox now, because what if as I'm detoxifying, I get it all over, like my face breaks out, in the detoxification process. So that's when I decided to go gluten-free and test that out, and have never gone back. So, so it's just part of this blowing my nose is part of the detoxification process. Then.
It could be, it's just, that's what I'm going to guess was part of it. I believe that everybody is different. We probably have had, I don't know, maybe 100 clients that have done it so far. Everybody's got different experiences. So even just hunger, it's astonishing to me how different we can be. I have people who have done it who never really experienced much hunger. And I was starving a lot during the 5 days. And even though I, can get into ketosis, it's still uncomfortable for me because I'm a very active person. It's uncomfortable to go through those periods where you may be hungry for, it could be 20 minutes, it could be a half hour, it could be 45 minutes, an hour. It's still an uncomfortable experience. I have not gotten used to that yet. And I've done it 5 times. And other people will tell me, geez, I really didn't feel that hungry. So I just believe that each of us as an individual will all have different kinds of experiences, and they probably are all, for the most part, not going to be anything to be fearful of.
First of all, you're more active than I am, and you're at this point leaner than I am. So I would say the reason why you're so hungry is because you are in such more of a need of calories than I am. I wasn't that active because I took those 5 days to work on the podcast, to work on things, to edit video. So I really wasn't. I took, I think, 1 or 2 walks for an hour, but they were not high intensity walks. So I wasn't that active, and you were very active, and you probably didn't slow down at all during your 5-day fasting. So I would imagine that I was still hungry, not really till day 3, because I was drinking plenty of tea, and I was having no calorie mineral water, and I was really just trying to always be drinking something. And then when we got to day 4, okay, that's when I really was I was really hungry at night on day 4. And then day 5, I was like, man, I can't wait to eat in the morning. I'm not going to be doing intermittent fasting tomorrow. First thing I'm doing when I get up is eating.
Good. That's a good response. That's exactly. And like you said, you were enjoying every bite when you were eating, right?
Well, but then I got up and I had my very decadent bulletproof coffee, and I didn't eat until 11 or 12. So I actually I continued the fat. I just checked in with when I was hungry. And again, because I've got so much fat in my coffee in the morning, it just sustains me for so long that I didn't want to eat when I wasn't hungry.
Beautiful.
So let's talk about, the diet is plant-based, and you said there were reasons for that. So what's the reason why the diet is plant-based?
A lot of what he wanted to do was, Dr. Longo had a lot of his research initially in the field of cancer. And so one of the things that he discovered was that protein stimulates cell growth. And in the case of cancer, that can be alarming. So he was very interested in again, wanting a program that would give you benefits, but not have any negative side effects. So by going plant-based for 5 days and really reducing your protein intake, I think it's like about 5 to 7%. What it does is it's almost like, again, this healing effect. It's a stimulus that is giving the body a chance to, one, recycle all those crappy cells, JJ. And those crappy cells, the body knows how to go ahead and pull out ingredients. So it's able to go ahead and extract the protein and utilize that, and also just get rid of through your bowel movements and through your lymph, etc. When you refeed and you start to go back to a normal protein intake, you dramatically increase your human growth hormone. And that's where, this, a lot of benefits would happen. So for example, I mentioned to you that people will lose fat during maybe the 4 or 5 days. They continue losing fat even for a couple of days after, just simply because of this fat burning effect. But the other interesting thing is that, typically when you cut back dramatically on your calories, you and I were both always taught that you're going to lose muscle mass. And so you might lose a pound or two of lean muscle mass during the fast. But when you refeed and you start adding in the protein, then your body goes into this cellular growth. Remember, protein is for growth and repair. So what we find in the research and what we find with our own clients is that most of these people will gain actually more muscle mass than they had before they started. Now, I've done it, and I've done the studies where I actually did a before and after body fat composition test, and I can attest to that. I've done it on enough patients that I understand it happens, so I don't need to keep doing it. But so that's a very powerful point. How often can people say that they went on a low-calorie diet and lost weight, but actually lost just fat, maybe a little bit of lean muscle mass, but when they went off the diet, were actually able to increase their lean muscle mass? That's one of the reasons why he dramatically cut back on the protein. The plant-based part is just predominantly to give lots of antioxidants, to really help with the cellular cleanup, to help with these cellular pathways that are really allowing healthy new cells to be built. So that's a key thing. And then he has there's just a lot of unique ingredients. Like, he specifically found like hibiscus tea and mint tea have benefits that help with like the brain. So for example, spearmint tea has been well studied, and we now know that it increases something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's almost kind of like a brain booster. It really helps with cognitive function. It helps with some people will sometimes get a little bit of brain fog when they're going through a detox, and this program might stimulate that. The spearmint tea is really designed to help offset that, and there's good research behind that. Hibiscus tea, it's got that beautiful red color. Hibiscus tea is amazing for the blood vessels. It's really like it's almost like eating beets. It has this regenerative effect for the blood vessels. It's wonderful for the urinary tract. There's a lot of areas within the body that will be regenerated just because of the antioxidants found in that tea. So that's just an example of 2 of the ingredients that he selected because of the benefits.
So when you do your revision in preparation for my January, number 3 on this, know that I hate spearmint tea. I do love the hibiscus, but I'd love to know, give me some wiggle room here on peppermint tea. I was doing actually roasted dandelion root tea as another form of detox. I was doing, I did a mango ginger tea for digestion. I did a blackberry apple cider vinegar tea for digestion. And it was just, I went to the store and just decided like what was calling to me, what sounded good, what felt good sort of intuitively. I did have a few of the spearmint and 1 hibiscus tea left over from the first time that I did it. And I know that there was that whole drink, and but again, I want to just test it out, and whether it was exact or not, I'm sure there was benefits to it. And I would love to, moving forward, I'll do the actual box again, but I want to do one more round of a do it yourself, so that way we can empower people to do it themselves and how they could do it. And because once you go through it once by buying the groceries, then it's like, oh, this is easy. So you know how much you needed. Like, I over purchased. I bought more than I needed, and it was still pretty reasonable. And so now I know, oh, I could even bring this down to less than what I spent and be more efficient. So I would
Beautiful.
love to have some options.
Yeah.
I had to laugh because I did the first one. I remember the olives, and because actually Trader Joe's has olives similar packets, but I didn't think to go there because I went to Whole Foods for everything. And so of course she said small Spanish olives, and I'm getting these like gigantic ones. So instead of doing 8 of them, I did 4 of them, or I did 3 of them. So I did not eat 8 big olives, but
Mm.
because I read after, my brain wasn't on small olives. I was looking at which ones didn't have garlic in them or blue cheese, or I didn't,
Oh yeah,
so
right.
I was trying to sort of match the color of the olive I remembered. And of course they were these big beefy ones that just called to me at
Yum.
Whole Foods.
Sounds
So
good.
right. Yeah. I just reduced the amount that I had. And then
Sure.
the macadamia nuts, there were herbed ones at Whole Foods. And so of course I had to get those for the
Yeah, sure.
nights where
A
I'm
little
just,
extra.
oh yeah, and then I added to some of the soups because, I make soups and I love my soups. And so the soups were good, but I made them better. So I added some
Sure.
salt, I added some spices to them. I think I even added a little bit of brewer's yeast. I don't know if that would have been okay, but I did it anyway because it added like a cheese flavor, not like a lot of it, but just enough to increase my satiety of these foods. So yeah. So anyway,
And I think it's real important just to get across to people that part of, Dr. Longo, he actually had his original plan was people could go and in his book, he actually has a 2-week fasting program, but everything you needed to make from scratch. Well, you know what, people just, when they're around a lot of food, I don't know about you, but we taste, and so, you don't know exactly how to monitor, how much did you actually really get? Because how many people really are able to calculate, what was in one bite of tasting my soup? So there's a reason why he put things in packages so that it would minimize people's preoccupation with food. It just simplified a lot. And I think even the one that you did, I mean, when something is coming out of an aseptic package or a can, it's a little bit easier than, just having to make it from scratch. But of course, your nature, I know you, JJ, you are not going to go ahead and let a soup be sitting there on the stove without adding an extra herb or something into it. And herbs have benefits. So recognize that if you do that, you want to be thoughtful about, and I'll make some recommendations when we actually rewrite that program so that even the transition diet, which wasn't included in yours, is made clear. JJ, I did want to go ahead and make one point that we kind of glossed over, and I want to get back to it, and it was about activity, if I could, because I think it's important for people to realize that when you're doing something that's this stressful, there's no recommendation for doing your normal workouts. The idea would be to get out and do some walking, maybe some brisk walking for 30 minutes, or, maybe do a shorter version of more intense workout. I chose to do a heavier workout this last time. That's not recommended. I did that only because I'm training for something that's happening in 2 weeks. So I wanted to see what would happen, but it's not advised. And so I want to make sure that people know that when you're doing something this stressful, you really want to have some self-care in mind with how you approach your activity. Nobody's going to, lose a lot of fitness if they were even just to disregard exercise for 5 days, or maybe just do a couple of simple walks that might be 10 or 15 minutes. You'll still get a lot of the internal benefits. So I wanted to make sure that got put out there, because there's no reason that anybody has to do any kind of heavy exercise that could actually put you into an uncomfortable position where you might be more likely to break the fast.
And if you are someone who exercises a lot already, which is good, actually rest is actually where the body rebuilds itself. So
Yep,
rest
absolutely.
could be a great place
Yes.
for you to be, and do this during a rest period, and not do this during a time where you
Yep.
think you have to be more active. So
exactly.
yeah. Okay. Well, so other than the fact that, there is eating on the program, there's soups, there is a bar that's very tasty. The foods themselves taste good. I mean, most of them. Again, there's nothing I ate that I didn't like, which when you outlined the program to do on your own, I mean, I bought more than I needed. And again, I had never had some of the soups before. So that's why I added salt and pepper and garlic powder or whatever I added to it to make it taste better. And we can go over what to add and what not to add and what amounts, because
Sure.
I didn't want to feel like, I felt Like, this is not that hard, especially if it tastes good. And again, I knew that I wasn't adding extra fat. I wasn't adding extra carbs. I wasn't actually trying to add any calories. That's why I tried to use just herbs or salt and pepper. So the actual diet that we did, again, was quite pleasurable. And you even included chocolate on this one, which I was super happy about. I'm like, I get chocolate.
Yeah, well, chocolate's actually in the meal program, in the original meal program, because I think it's, again, chocolate, think of it as, it's a medicinal food, JJ. So, he definitely, like I said, he had there's 66 different ingredients that are used in that box, and every one of them has a purpose. So, yeah, chocolate's.
I don't remember chocolate being a part of the box.
Yeah, it was the L bar, the chocolate. It's a chocolate crisp that you would get 3 nights. 3 nights you get it. That was in your box. You ate it and you enjoyed it, I'm sure, and you forgot because you didn't get it 2 other nights.
Okay, well, then that must be why. But because I don't remember any chocolate. I remember the bar. I remember the kale chips. I remember the soups. Yep. I remember the olives.
They've upgraded it too. It's the newest kit has actually got. There's a lot of different. I shouldn't say there's a lot of different items. It's still based on soup because soup has so many benefits. Soup will fill you up, without adding a lot of calories to your meal plan. So some of the soups are only like 150 calories. Oh, I did want to mention, you were asking about some side effects and some precautions. So I did want to throw one other thing in, and that is a lot of people will say, gosh, I'm feeling so good on doing this for 5 days. Why can't I just keep going? Why can't I keep going for 10 days? Well, we find that short-term stimulus that's stressful, doesn't necessarily need to go for a long period of time. Sometimes just a short-term stress can really generate magical benefits. So you're still getting wonderful benefits for the next 7 to 8 to 9 days after the program has ended. So, realize that the 25 days that follow, you may find that your weight possibly goes down. You may find that your skin continues to improve. I mean, you may find that your bowels are better. You don't know. It'll be very individual for you. But I want people to realize that we don't want to encourage people to think that if a little is good, then I'll just keep going with it, because then you're on just a low-calorie meal plan, and that doesn't necessarily have the benefits that I mentioned to you. So, then you would start losing maybe more lean muscle mass than you would regain. So bear in mind, there's a purpose and a reason for why it's 5 days, and there's a transition diet, which is, really helping you to transition so that you're not, overeating, and you're not eating, crazy foods, that you're eating light foods. It's like maybe some light fish or some simple soups or juices. Liquid foods are really great for that first meal. But anyway, we'll go into more of that, JJ. So they'll have a transition pack and transition component to the program that they follow.
Excellent. Okay, so if you are interested in doing it on your own and doing it ASAP, get in touch with Jeanne Peters, jp@nourishingwellness.com, or just go to nourishingwellness.com and you can work with Jeanne and do your program. If you're interested in joining me to do it with the group in the Inner Circle membership, then you want to click the link in the show notes to join the Inner Circle if you're not already in it, or just look for the notifications in the Facebook group when we're going to do it, and we will help you. We'll send you the link to either work with Jeanne to get the package, and you can still have the accountability and do the foods in the actual box, which I would recommend. Sure. For anyone that's busy. If you don't like to cook, if you don't like to prepare things, if you have too much going on, that's not going to be an excuse not to do it. In fact, when you get the box, it makes life easier because you don't have to think about it. And the clients that we share together who've done it, 6 times now, I feel like that they always get the box because she doesn't want to think about it. And it's easy, and there's no barrier, there's no resistance to doing it because it's just easy. And so work with Jeanne to get the box, or I'll have a download for everybody to get the program, and you can print it out and go to the store and get all the stuff and be prepared for us to do it together.
Wonderful. I think it's a great way to start off the new year, JJ. I think people are going to feel it's a powerful new way to help generate not only your optimal weight, but also to regenerate and slow down the aging process, to regenerate brand new cells. And doesn't everybody want brand new cells in the new year?
Who doesn't? I mean, who doesn't? And then when you're on the phone with Jeannie or communicating with her, if you have any other issues or conditions that you'd like to have addressed, please have a session with her. Reach out, book a session. She can do it over the phone or on Zoom or Skype or whatever works for you. Or if you're local, you can come into the office. So please visit nourishingwellness.com. Jeannie Peters, you know who she is. She's been here before. She'll be here again. Jeannie, thank you so much for your wisdom, who you are in the world, and always being available to help me educate and inspire people to live their best life.
I love it, JJ. What a great way to end. Okay, everyone, have a great day.